PR Connections Radio presents. This episode of Thinking into Results is brought to you by Classy Communications PR and Advertising. Classy Communications provides public relations and marketing solutions for businesses, professionals, and nonprofit organizations. They can deliver the true meaning of your business with press releases, social media marketing, web development, email marketing, book publishing, and much more. Wherever your potential clients are, they can help you connect with them. Visit classycommunications.net to learn more about their suite of services that can help your business stand out from the rest. Classy Communications is your solution for business success.
I guess you can be very successful without one, and probably some people do. But I would not have accomplished anywhere near what I have accomplished without a mentor. I have had a number of mentors, and my whole life has changed dramatically. I went from going nowhere to having a business that operates all over the world. If you want to win in a big way, you want to get a mentor. It's almost like getting a direct pipeline from their mind to your mind, where you're gaining all their wisdom, all their experience, and all the studying that they've done over a number of years. And like that, you get it all in a short period of time. Are mentors important? Well, I'm going to tell you, mentors literally changed the course of my life. Let's take a look at what Thinking into Results is and what it could do for you, how it came about. You see, my life had changed dramatically. I went from earning nothing to earning over $1 million a year. And I was sitting one day and I was thinking, how did all this happen? Do you know, I was reading Think and Grow Rich. I was studying Earl Nightingale's material. But a lot of people have read those books and studied Earl's material. And they weren't accomplishing what I was accomplishing. So I had to ask myself, what am I doing so different? You see, I had been raised to believe if you're going to earn a lot of money, you've got to be really smart. I was earning over $1 million a year, and I didn't think I was that bright. I was also raised to believe if you don't go to school, you can't win. Well, I hadn't gone to school. I went to high school for about 2 months. I didn't have a good job. I owned the entire company. If you want to be happy, healthy, and prosperous, it's all here. Thinking into Results is going to show you how to get it. If what I've said really triggered something in your mind and you're thinking maybe, contact the certified PGI consultant, hit the button, leave the information, do yourself a favor, sit down and talk to them about what this program can do for you. This very well could be the decision that will change the rest of your life.
Thank you, Bob. Welcome to Thinking into Results, presented by S&J Mentoring. We show you how to accomplish your dreams right now. I'm very excited about our show today. We're talking about imagination, your childhood friend. And while we were preparing the show today, it brought me back to when I was a teenager and one of my friends' parents had a late child. We're teenagers and there's a 2-year-old. And I still remember this. There was like a family joke was that he had a invisible friend. His little friend was an Indian, cowboys and Indians. And he's 2 years old talking about his friend. And I've never had a conversation or thought about it in all these years. And imagination is where it starts. Like one of the things that we like to say about imagination, everything on the planet, everything that man has created here began in an idea in someone's mind, a new idea of imagination. We like to say that things are created 3 times. The vision is in God's mind, brings it into our conscious mind. And I like to say in manifesting God's will, we create whatever the idea was. I think I have some other notes here. Oh, actually, the story with the little boy that was 2. I didn't want to say how old I was, but John reminded me dinosaurs were young when I had that experience with my friend. We like to say that imagination moves into desire. We call it the burning desire, which then leads to action. And I think I neglected my co-host today. My co-host is a trained voice actor, longtime student of Thinking Results, John Gage.
You said?
And John, I think you've got some other thoughts right off the top here, the role of imagination and how it's functioning as a child and then moving into, let's say, adulthood.
Actually, I do. I have a lot of thoughts. Sometimes they're good. Sometimes they're bad. Most of the time they're good, though. So that works out well for all of us. But like you said earlier, imagination is where desire meets action. So, we talk about desire and having desire, and we've talked about faith and how all of that works together. Imagination kind of is the glue that binds all of that and helps us picture what we really want. And like you said, as a child, I remember as a child, I told the story before, but when I learned to ride a bicycle, I thought I was Evel Knievel. My little brother and I we'd set up jumps, and we swear we were jumping over, 30 buses at the time. And if for you young people, it's on YouTube. Evel Knievel did exist. He was a real person that broke every bone in his body. Fortunately, we didn't follow that path. But as we were learning to ride a bicycle, we didn't, as a child, we had complete trust that our parents were like, yeah, you can do it. Oh, okay. Because you don't think anything about it, because we're really working off our subconscious mind at the time. So imagination is pretty much all we have to go on. And so we do all kinds of things. We pretend we're certain people, and we really believe that. And we start to lose that a little bit when we start headed to school, because I'd be looking out the window and the teacher would be going, John, stop daydreaming, pay attention. So it would pull me away from what I was thinking about, what I was dreaming about, what I believed I was doing at the time. Even though I was kind of sitting there just kind of looking out the window, I still could picture myself doing certain things, whatever they may be, saving the world, being Superman, flying around the world. Spider-Man was one of my favorite superheroes. I often pretended to be him when I was little. So even though it would be kind of cool to have spider webs come out of your wrist, it just doesn't work in real life. So as adults, we kind of have to relearn to imagine. You would agree with that assessment, obviously, with the nod. And what we have to relearn is there's a couple of different types of imagination. And I know people out there, I know you're going, what do you mean there's two types of imagination? There are two types of imagination. There's synthetic imagination, and then there's creative imagination. Synthetic uses ideas that already exist that we can improve upon a concept. Like when cell phones came out. Do you remember when phones came out, Sid? I know you had those that were made of stone, but do you remember when cell phones came out, how simple they were?
Yeah, John, yes, I hate to interrupt. Can I tell a quick Steve Jobs story?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm not sure this is true, but I've heard it in different places that they were having a meeting at Apple that Steve had a lot of his people together, and someone's phone rang. And we had flip tops then, but someone's phone rang, and Steve said, "Isn't that annoying?" Everybody agreed. And then he said, "What do we do here at Apple? We make things that are fun." So this is a great example of that came in his mind. He had his imagination. Yeah, we need to create a phone that's fun.
Right.
At that point, I don't know that he probably had any thought of what they would do, but he told his engineers, "Make us a phone that's fun." And now, I remember having an i8. I'm not or 6, but got this one last week, and this is the I-16. And I can hardly wait for the 17. But that's my story of an idea being triggered.
Right. Well, and keeping on the idea of the cell phones, we had the phone, which was created by Bell, and we had that for a long time, where you'd have to talk to an operator and tell them where you wanted to go. They'd have to plug the wires in and get it to the right spot. Then you got to where you could just dial a number on it. For those of you who use these, there used to be a little thing that was round. It had numbers on it, and you would spin it to get it to work. Where this one, you just punch buttons, but you'd have to spin the thing to get it to work, and then you would call your friends. And Star Trek came out.
John.
Trek had a little communicator. Yes, Captain, I'll beam you up. And it was a wireless communication that we didn't really have access to or understood, but it was a very simple idea that you could communicate wirelessly, and that's where cell phones came from. So what this person did, and so there's two different types of imagination at work here. This person is using synthetic imagination. He's going, okay, I've got a cell phone, or I've got a phone, but I really want it to be handheld, and I want to be able to be portable and communicate wirelessly. So now he has a creative idea. So he kind of merges the two. It's like I'm not sure who this music mogul was, but I heard a story the other day about a music mogul that it was the gentleman that would work with Michael Jackson. And he said one time that almost every song that's out there is based on 12 chords. He said, and what these artists do is they create 80% of the song based on these 12 chords, and they rely on me for that 20% inspiration from God to come up with the rest of it. So everything we do is imagination in some fashion. So you go out there, you're writing a song, you're creating a phone, you're building a new car, writing a new book. I mean, how many different books are out on thinking into results that aren't called thinking into results, but when you read them, they're almost identical. But there's inspiration from this other person that's like, oh, I hadn't thought of that before, so it's a new thought. And this is how your imagination works. And in order for it to continue, because when you think of your goal, you picture it. We talk about that. And sometimes, I mean, it's not easy to picture it right off the bat. You have to keep doing it, and you have to keep picturing it. You have to, make a vision board and look at that and piece things together. Eventually, if you keep doing that, you can picture your goal and have your vision, which is a byproduct of the imagination. So we really kind of have to continually work with our imagination in the pursuit of our goals, and it allows us to, I don't know, improve ability to
creating.
Hate. Yes.
That I would call that conscious creating. The idea comes in using your imagination, but it's going to
create that. I don't know why it escaped me.
You had said something else.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny? Just these conversations triggers a new idea of what we're talking about, but I'm still paying attention to you. And I've said, what was it that I thought that I wanted to contribute? It had, oh, I know. The you could, let's call it purposeful imagining. It's one of our, Bob Proctor, one of the exercises is to just go, be quiet, go in what I call the stillness, still in your mind, and just let the imagination bring some new ideas to you. And if you like the new idea and you're thinking about it, the picture gets bigger. But it all came from, quote, the imagination of being triggered by something and then creating the picture of what we want to do.
Right, because you're working those imaginary muscles and making
Yes.
it bigger.
So where are we at now?
Well, we're
Oh, yes, John, I remember now. Is one of the great stories in Think and Grow Rich, which we've talked about before, is published in 1937. The culmination of 20 years of research or interviews by Napoleon Hill with 500 very successful people. And Andrew Carnegie, at that time the richest man in the world, had the idea. He knew how he came from nothing to being the wealthiest man in the world, but he knew how he did it. But what about all the other successful people that were dying and no one knew? He introduced Napoleon Hill.
it looks like
Andrew Carnegie, Napoleon Hill. I'm sorry?
you were kind of glitching on us there, Sid. It's okay. I think it's getting a little better.
Oh,
And continue with your story.
thank you. So Andrew Carnegie's company, he had gone out in what they call vertical structure. He owned the company that was doing the mining, as well as creating the steel that was being sold and everything in between. And his key guy, manager of this whole operation, was Charles Schwab, no relationship to our current brokerage firm. And he had a vision to create a company that could go public and bring all the companies to all of Andrew Carnegie's company, which is the biggest, but all other companies still that were quality companies. And Charles Schwab selected which were the companies that should be in this for this new company, which became U.S. Steel. And I think the value of Andrew Carnegie's was maybe 400 million, and maybe 200 million or more from some other companies they brought in. And then, of course, the brokers, the stockbrokers, and the people that put things together, they sold stock to the public for $1 billion. First $1 billion company. This, I think, could have been 1908 or 1903. I think.
Math on that?
I'm sorry.
Didn't we do the math on that, or did I tell you what the math is on that? If they were to do that today, how much money that was?
No,
almost $40 billion.
Right out of the chute. Well, that's the it was a picture, it was imagination in Charles Schwab's mind. No one had ever thought of doing this. Matter he put the package together. They knew what the plan was and what they were going to do, but Andrew Carnegie didn't know that that was on the table, and he was one who was retiring, and here was an opportunity. His right hand man, Charles Schwab, let's get the boss paid off, and of course Charles Schwab became the president of U.S. Steel, which I think was for at least 20 plus years, because he really knew the steel business. Well, enough about Charles Schwab. I think you had a couple thoughts on.
Well, I do. By exercising your mind, it takes the vague dreams that we have, because a lot of times we have these things. I really would like to do that. So it takes, because vague dreams lead to vague outcomes. But if you can focus your mind like Schwab did and really align with what the purpose is you want, you can really have this very vivid dream that will come true because you're focused on it. And like we've said before, it's like driving a car, flying a plane. You're focused on the end results. You're always focused on the end result. And what the imagination does is gives you that vivid picture of the end results, which allows you to stay focused on where you're going, just like driving a car, flying a plane, juggling balls. You don't look at your hands when you juggle. You look at the balls because you need to see where they're at. Your hands will always adjust. And the imagination keeps you focused on that. So basically what we're saying is the greatness begins with some of the most simple ideas. I'm going to kind of end here with a story about the light bulb.
Ah, you love the light bulb story.
Yeah, Thomas Edison. How simple idea is that? I know we talked about this a little bit the other day, but I wonder what it would take to light the inside of a building at night with something more than a candle and less dangerous. So Thomas Edison spends all this time producing and figuring out how to just take a very simple concept, which ended up honestly being quite difficult because, he figured out 10,000 ways how not to make it, but he did figure out the one way how to make it. So this is kind of the common. There's still a combination of synthetic because light existed, candles existed. You could light a room with a candle. So you're taking that synthetic existing idea that's already there that we already use all the time and taking that and creating something new out of it that is now widely accepted, widely used. Airplanes, cars. I mean, we can talk about a number of things that would fit into that category, but the simple idea of making a bulb, and I don't remember how long it took him to do this, but you're talking 10,000 failures, or in his mind, 10,000 ways how not to make a light bulb. And again, that's working your mind and constantly using your imagination, knowing that, okay, I have to redirect. And we talk about that all the time. We have to change our path because he's focused solely on getting electronic bulb to give light. And now we have all kinds of different light. All of this light has been expanded upon from an existing source. In other words, a synthetic source of an idea that allows us to expand and come up with something different. LEDs didn't, I remember LEDs are actually a very new bulb because we had the light bulb, which was the basic light bulb from the time Edison created it till, goodness gracious, when did fluorescent bulbs come out? Late 60s, early 70s?
That I don't know.
But so we had that bulb, that very simple bulb for all these years, and all of a sudden you get a fluorescent bulb, which is, a vacuum sealed tube with a bunch of powder in it that causes an iridescence that causes the light to light the room. And I remember those improving because I remember when I was a little kid, my dad put them in the shop, and you go in the shop and you have the lights in the house, and it was kind of bright like it is here because I have an LED light over here that's shining and making my face show up. And then you go into the shop and it's like yellow, and you're like, oh, do I have jaundice? Because that was the fluorescent bulbs that would light it up and it was always kind of hard to see. It left a lot of dark areas, and they gradually improved. And by the time I was an adult, you could put a fluorescent bulb in that mimicked the sunlight. I mean, so there was an improvement there, and they started using them on fish tanks because it gave off a better light and a truer light than a regular bulb did. And I remember, because I'm very much into fish tanks. I love my aquariums. I understand marine tanks very well. I understand freshwater tanks very well. And I've watched the lighting go from these fluorescent bulbs. Well, I remember when I had my first fish when I was a little kid, you have this little light bulb that went in there, and a goldfish, because that's what kids get, are goldfish. Now my fish costs a lot more money. So, but I've watched them go from this light bulb, the simple bulb, to the fluorescent bulbs, because when I started getting to marine fish, you had the blue iridescent bulbs, you had the 10,000 K white bulbs, the 40,000 K white bulbs, and those depended on the depth of your tank and how far it had to get down so that the light would feed all of the live rock and stuff that was in there. And now we have LED lights that they're a quarter of the cost, and they do the same thing in a much more efficient fashion. So this is all synthetic ideas that you have 80% of, and then there's that 20% inspiration that you get from the infinite intelligence that's out there, because you allowed your mind to be open and you expected results. Key word, guys, expected results. Edison expected results. Schwab expected results. Would you agree, Sid?
Yes, John. And actually, I want to circle back to Thomas Edison and the light bulb.
Mm-hmm.
He reached a point where he was able to get the light bulb light up, and it would only be for a fraction of a second. And he couldn't figure it out.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He was known for his power naps, like a 20-minute in the middle of the day. And this one day, he has this little 20-minute nap. And when he wakes up, he knows the problem. And the problem was he needed to take the air out of whatever the containers that where they were lighting the bulb.
He turned it into a vacuum.
Yeah, he realized the air was putting out the light, and once they took the vacuum out of it, there we had our incandescent light bulb.
Yeah, and we had vacuum tubes up to the early 70s for TVs and radios, and now we have a phone.
Oh yes,
that's more powerful than our TV set when I was a child. It's more powerful than the computer I used in high school. And I know one of my buddies is probably watching this, and he'll agree with me, because we were using TRS-80s in high school. And we finally get one that's got 512 kilobytes, and we're like, how are we gonna use all of that memory?
John, I think they use the expression that there's more power in this than in the computers they used to get the man on the moon.
There is a lot more power in it. So, just to start winding down a little bit, Sid, the biggest takeaway from here is we have to use our imagination. We need our imagination in order to create and bring things to us. And if we don't work that imagination on a regular basis, it's like anything else. It's going to stop doing the function we need it to do. And so, guys, when you're wanting to do something and that idea comes, grab a hold of it and run with it. And then continue to think about it. Continue to imagine what it's going to do for you. Continue to go, okay, well, what if I do this? Take the time to quiet your mind. If you're going to run into an issue, Take time to quiet your mind and say, okay, when I'm going to quiet my mind. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to be open to whatever suggestion may come into my mind to resolve this issue. And I can promise you that usually the first suggestion is the right one. Go with it. Is there anything you'd like to add real quick, Sid, before I close?
No, I think you've done a great job today. And actually, I do have, now I remember what occurred to me earlier, real quick, like,
Okay.
If you're older like us, there was a cartoon back in the 50s, 60s, detective Dick Tracy. So this is in the late 50s, and he's got a watch. He's got a watch like what we've got today, and I'm not sure that that was showed up in somebody's mind at Apple to create the Apple Watch, who probably has probably seen that cartoon from the 50s.
My watch though is an Invicta, so I don't have any of that fancy stuff. It's just pretty.
Okay, John.
But I agree with you. That's 100% of it. So, in close, guys, always remember your imagination's there to help you get through those areas of confusion and difficulty when obtaining your goals. And on that note, we'd just like to thank you for sharing your time with us. If you wish to learn more, please visit our website at sj-mentoring.com. That's sj-mentoring.com. It's up on the screen there for you. And send us a contact request. Fill out the contact request, send it to us. It'll get to one of us, and we will get back to you. We would love to hear from you. We would love to be able to show you how to accomplish your dreams. That's what we do. Please like, share, and subscribe. It really helps, and we appreciate everybody that does that. We appreciate everybody that listens to our show and tunes in. Now, next week, Sid and I will be unavailable. So our live show won't be active, but we will be replaying Absolute Faith no matter what. That's a great show. Please tune in for that. But we shall return the following week, Wednesday, May 21st. And we will be discussing, get this, planning your GPS to success. It's going to be a very fun conversation. It's part 6 of our 13 Steps to Success series. And we would love to see you there. We would love to hear any input you may have. So please feel free to join us and become part of the conversation. So remember, at SJ Mentoring, we show you how to accomplish your dreams. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, John.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.